Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Neo Tokyo's Interlinked, powered by Shrapnel and Crypto Unicorns.
Brace yourself for impact, crypto gamers. I am reporting from the Sacrifice Zone. STX 3.2 dates have just been announced, and it's going to be going down from July 25th to July 30th. Make sure to block off your calendars so you don't miss out on those mission rewards. These missions come in two different types, ones that earn you Shrap and ones that earn you weapon skins. These missions could be getting a certain amount of kills with a specific weapon, or extracting with a certain amount of weapon skin fragments or Sigma, and you'll want to complete these missions as the prize pool for 3.2 is 1 million Shrap. And if you just can't get enough Shrap, pick up an operator NFT, as holders are going to get 50% of that million Shrap pool. Introducing Crypto Unicorns, a play and collect game by Laguna Games. Breed, battle, and collect your favorite unicorns. Crypto Unicorns has recently successfully migrated to the Xi blockchain. The Xi blockchain was custom developed leveraging Arbitrum technology to address the needs of Web3 gaming at scale. Stay tuned to the end of this episode to learn all about Crypto Unicorns' Play to Airdrop campaign, which just kicked off on July 1st. Learn all about this and more at www.cryptounicorns.fun. Huge shout out to our sponsor, Playa3ull Games. They are inspired by gamers and funded by their community. They have a epic game on the Epic Games Store, a third-person shooter called Nexus. Hop on in there and check that out. They're also currently selling nodes, so if you're interested, check that out at their website, playable.games. That is a 3 instead of a B on Playable. Now strap in for the rest of this episode of Interlinked.
We are joined today by Bryan from the InfiniGods team. How are we doing today, Bryan?
What's going on, Nick? I'm good. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Thanks for joining us during your evening. We appreciate having you on.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been a big fan for a while and pumped to finally come on the show.
Well, we're pumped to have you on. Let's kick off with a little introduction for yourself, maybe hit on how you got into Web3, and we'll get the ball rolling from there.
Let's do it. So my name is Bryan Disanto. I'm the CMO of InfiniGods. We're a blockchain gaming studio specifically focused on mobile gaming. My sort of journey to Web3 started probably in 2020, let's call it, with projects like Top Shot, Zed Run, Axie, Art Block, sort of those OG early GameFi projects before teams really knew how to make games. Let's call it. It was sort of the very experimental Wild West that feels like, decades ago, versus where we are now. But my background is very much in content marketing, performance marketing, digital. I've built and run multiple agencies based out of New York. My first business out of school was a fitness health website, very much inspired by Gary Vee. He was one of my early sort of advisors when I was in school at NYU. He actually, before he had started Vayner, came and he did some small consulting on a business I was building, and really just was inspired by his passion, his book Crush It, early on, and it was really just a big catalyst for me to go all in on something I was super stoked about and really was spending a lot of time on personally. So that was fitness and nutrition and health at the time. I was a personal trainer, I was a sports nutritionist, grew a pretty large community. We were doing over 1 million unique visitors a month on that website, and I was running that for about 5 years, let's call it. Jumped out of that and ended up actually moving to Paris to culinary school. Took a little stint as a chef, as a detour, and came back and just really wanted to throw myself more into building businesses, doing marketing, but specifically growing other high potential companies. So I did that for about, let's call it 5-6 years until 2020, 2021, and kind of got to the point where I was just tired of building and growing other people's shit. And I really wanted to start building, something of my own again. And naturally, that was very much where like the convergence of Web3 happened. I was a huge Pokemon card collector, huge baseball card collector when I was young, huge gamer. So when I discovered Zed Run specifically, this like thing broke in my brain where I was like, you can own the horses, you can breed the horses, I can make more of them. I can sell them with liquidity on a secondary market, and there's scarcity and all these sort of fun things. And it just kind of warped my brain, just how I thought about technology. I thought about ownership. I thought about collectibles, gaming. And it really became something I was fully passionate about. And I think, as you know, as a fellow crypto degen, it sucks you in and it sucks you in hard. So I started trading everything under the sun, in the 2020, 2021 cycle, everything from Axie and Top Shot to Art Blocks to Bored Apes to Gutter Cats to Cool Cats, you name it. Kind of went through that cycle, just sort of being in it 24/7, and made my way to a project called Wolf Game late in 2021, which, if you're familiar with early GameFi, sort of that Axie, Ether Orcs era, you'll know what Wolf Game was, but just fell in love with the idea of risk protocol. I remember minting day one and sort of the idea of you could mint an NFT and somebody else could steal your shit automatically. And some of those wolves were worth, tens of thousands of dollars at the time. Was a pretty wild sort of period. At sort of in parallel, I did some consulting for the founder of that project. His name's the Shepherd, fully anonymous, very much a Satoshi type figure, and made my way into an advisory role there. I was sort of a core member of the community early days, and really was the first project that I had advised for in Web3, and kind of was that bridge for me from doing digital marketing, doing brand work, community for Web2 startups, high growth projects into crypto. Worked with them for a little bit, and then fast forward to sort of like early to mid 2022. I met the founders of InfiniGods, and they were my second client. Started doing some advisory work for them. 2 years later, I'm on full time and in full swing, and have been there and loving it ever since.
Hell yeah, I'd love to hear it. Had a very similar introduction into Web3. For me, it was Axie. I read like a news article, literally the stock app news at the
Yeah.
bottom. They had a story about Axie Infinity. And I was like, what? I can breed these little monsters and sell them. And like pretty much that was my brain click moment. So at that point, when you hopped onto the InfiniGods team, how long had they been operating?
So InfiniGods was founded in late 2021, started operating early 2022. The founders of InfiniGods, Damon and Owen, were big Wolf Game players, investors as well. So I kind of knew them peripherally from that community. And my buddy Panther QB named Caleb joined as their CSO. He was running sort of a Web3 crypto private equity firm at the time, but sort of like me, wanted to jump, more into the builder side of things. He had been investing and trading and collecting for a while, but wanted to build something. And I think, we just really hit it off. He introduced me to the InfiniGods founders. And I think, within 30 minutes, you just kind of sometimes you meet people and you click, and it's like you've worked together for a decade and you feel like you know them and you work really well together. It was very much that. I think in terms of personalities, in terms of ambition, it just worked right away. But I think for me, my view was, I saw early GameFi. I think it was interesting, it was niche, but it never felt truly scalable to me. Like I never viewed something like Axie or Wolf Game or Ether Orcs or any of those being something that like my mom would play or the masses would play. So it kind of felt capped in terms of upside. But when I met Damon and Owen, their backgrounds were extensively in mobile gaming. Owen led gaming at Facebook for over a decade. He had grown Candy Crush, he had grown Farmville. Damon founded a company called DGN Games that won Facebook's Game of the Year in 2014, a game called Old Vegas Slots that he sold to Crown Resorts for about $50 million in sort of the mid 2010s. And really, they just knew how to build mobile games. They knew how to scale mobile games. But Keeley, they were fucking degens. Degeneracy ran in their blood. They were trading NFTs, they were trading meme coins, they knew the space. And I think sort of that convergence of pedigree, experience, acumen, but also understanding and respecting, what you need to build a Web3 business and what the community wants is such a rare combination, because I think you see Web 2 founders that are successful come in so often. They feel like they know everything. They feel like they've built things in the past, but just don't get the ethos and sort of the whole vision of the space. And I think unless you've been in the trenches and you've traded and you've been in communities and you've complained about projects and you've been rugged, you don't really understand what it takes to build a community and understand what they want. But I think for me, it was just the understanding of there was this opportunity, there was this pedigree, but there was the flexibility to do it in sort of what I deemed to be the right way or how I'd want to build a company in Web3. So they brought me on as an advisor. I kind of tested the waters and sort of, let's call it mid 2022. And by the fall, roughly 2 years ago, I just knew it was an amazing opportunity. I think I was really in the mood to build something, build a brand, put my reputation on the line. And so far, so good. I think it's been a great ride for the last 2 years, and it feels like we're just getting started.
Yeah, totally agree on the point on, when people come in from Web 2 and they try and build something in Web 3, it's just a different game. When you're building out in the open, as opposed to like sort of behind the curtain, and then a game comes out with an alpha, like whatever, 2, 3 months before the game is actually going to release. And that's the first time the community really sees it. It's just a totally different game when you're building right in front of the community, constantly getting feedback. So for InfiniGods, when you joined the team, where were they in their development journey? What was InfiniGods? Was it playable at that point? Just to give a bit of an idea of where it was when you joined, and then maybe you can catch us up to where it is today.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that stood out to me completely. When I joined, they were one of the first projects that actually had a live working game when they were going to mint their first collection, which in 2022 was a shocking concept. You actually had a game before you launched publicly and you tried to sell anything. But they had a game called InfiniMerge. It's a match 3D game, very much similar to like Candy Crush, something like that. But it was on browser, and I think their view was, the North Star was always mobile. That's their pedigree. We knew we wanted to get into the app stores, but we wanted to build a community, with a game first. We wanted to lead with product. We wanted to make sure we had that ready to go. And I think Keely, it was how do you sort of take this kernel of an idea, this game, and how do you show your community that full journey to go from sort of a browser-based, I don't even want to call it an alpha because it was a fully fledged game. It had different game modes. It had a full campaign. It had a very novel economy. And, I think we were one of the first studios, if not the first, to take off-chain virtual currencies and give the user the ability to put those on-chain as NFTs, ERC 1155s, and you could actually sell those sort of bundles of virtual currencies to other players on OpenSea or Magic Eden or Blur Now, which was a sort of a novel take on an economy, before you introduce an ERC 20. So I think sort of that combination of having a game that was not just working, but also really fun, really addicting that people really liked, and gave us room to experiment in terms of tokenomics and sort of novel Web3 pathways, for me was just a really cool opportunity. So we launched with that game. This is sort of mid 2022. If you think back, this is like deep bear. The market had totally cratered. ETH was back below 1,000 for a little bit. And we launched our first NFT collection. It's called the InfiniPass. It's still our premium asset today. And we minted it for, I think, like $60. It was, this incredibly sort of cheap entry asset, but we sort of wanted to bring in community that, wanted to have a little bit of skin in the game. They wanted to be exposed to what we were building and kind of take that angle of, we're sort of like founders. We're building the project, the game, the community with you. We want to be a part of that ride. It actually took us, I think, 4 months to mint out, and then we just shut off the mints. In my view, was always, I think hype is such a dangerous and powerful weapon, let's call it. I think, you see it so often with projects and games, but my view was always, I don't want my skis to get at me. I want to people in that like what we're building, sort of get the vision. give you the opportunity to buy in with size if that's where your conviction lies. I don't want to overhype this thing and not be able to deliver on those promises, for who knows how long. I think as a builder, it's important to consider pacing and it's important to consider trajectory and sort of what's possible. So we've always kind of taken that approach of slow and steady. It might not always be sexy. You might not see our floor, spike to 1 ETH overnight, but I think we've always had 5, 10, 20 years out in mind. And I think, if you look back to mid 22 to now, we've shipped 3 games in 3 different genres in over 2 years. We have a game, King of Destiny, which is our flagship that's it's in both app stores globally, 177 countries. We have almost 1 million installs on that game in soft launch. And it feels like we're just about to turn a corner where, we have a token being launched in partnership with the Valhalla Foundation. We're on the verge of sort of kicking in like real UA at scale. And we're sort of ready to go based on a lot of the learnings we've had in the last 2 years.
So let's zoom in on King of Destiny. Can you paint a bit of a picture for people who haven't gotten a chance to play or haven't seen gameplay yet?
Yeah, so the easiest way to describe it is if you know Coin Master, if you know Monopoly Go, if you know Dice Stream, sort of this luck battle category. It's actually the fastest growing, highest monetizing genre in mobile gaming right now. It's very similar to those titles, but it's all set in a mythological universe. So you can imagine Hercules and Thor and Ares and Odin, sort of these characters that everybody knows and loves. You progress through a campaign that takes you to ancient Greece and sort of the Norse lands of the Vikings, but in sort of a fun and familiar way. And you sort of work your way through the campaign, and it's a super simple core loop. You effectively, if you look at Coin Master or you look at Monopoly Go, Coin Master uses a slot machine. Monopoly Go uses dice and they use sort of the board. Everybody knows Monopoly. It's very much rooted in that IP. The difference is we use cards. So it's a 3-card draw. You draw those cards and you get different outcomes. You can get coins, which are sort of your main progression currency. You can get crowns, which kind of are sort of a utility currency that let you protect your base from attacks. And then you can get attack draws, which sort of let you attack other players asynchronously and steal their shit effectively. So it's a very simple game loop. You deal cards, you win resources, you build up your city. But the genre tends to have high K factor because it's very much rooted in, attacking friends, stealing their other currencies, and sort of using that pillage to build up your own stuff. So that's more or less the root of the game. There's a second mode. So there's sort of campaign on one side, then there's tournament mode on the other side if you're more of a competitive player. So you can imagine something similar where you end up actually anteing a virtual currency similar to before. It's actually an off-chain to on-chain currency. So if you win enough of it, you can bundle it up, put it on chain as an ERC 1155 and sell it to other players. And depending on where you place in those tournaments, you end up winning more of that currency, which does have, some monetary value. You can win special rewards like scarce avatars, things like that. So we kind of view it as, there are different game modes, different strokes for different folks. If you like sort of more of the chill, progressive gameplay, you can play campaign. If you want more of the competitive sort of wagering type experience, you can play tournaments. But we typically find there's nice cross-pollination between both modes.
And for those not aware, K factor.
K factor is sort of it's a metric we use in sort of marketing where you're measuring a game's propensity to go viral. So if you think about the ability to share a game with friends, the ability to share social moments, those types of games tend to have really high K factor. So for us, because you have a friend list and sort of the mechanics of the game, you tend to attack your friends and steal their stuff more often than random players. You tend to get a lot of that dynamic. You have people sharing to Facebook or Twitter or Discord or whatever social channel you want. And it tends to generate a lot of that social viral loop.
Oh yeah, and especially for gaming in general, as Helldivers 2 shows, that's huge. That I mean, I couldn't hop on Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts without being just bombarded by different Helldivers, either gameplay or people running around and sort of like that motion capture, like character suit. They did a great job at that. Pal World too, just because it was so shocking to see these like Pokemon-like creatures
Totally.
manufacturing guns or, shooting them with an RPG. So I think that's such an important part, particularly in this iteration of crypto gaming as opposed to last cycle where it was just be as vague as possible and have the sexiest trailer as possible, which
Yeah.
was sort of the meta for the first one. And then, people have grown hip.
And I think, you even look at, you look at something like Pac-Moon or Portal or Block Games. And again, there are a lot of criticisms of how, those projects launched and did certain things. But I look at Pac-Moon and how they just stimulated social virality and dominated the timeline. For us, I think mobile gaming, especially in sort of the casual and hyper casual sector, you don't get any of the sex appeal of a AAA game. We're not going to compete with an Illuvium or a Shrapnel or a Parallel on visual appeal. But I think, where mobile gaming, especially this genre, really excels is it's super accessible. Anybody in the world can play it if you have a mobile device, which is basically everybody. It's super, super viral. So it's the kind of game that, you play for 5 minutes a day. You play on the toilet, you play on the treadmill, you play, even on the car. Like you could put on auto deal while someone else is driving or you're podcasting. It just goes for you. And you have those viral moments hit different social networks and can totally saturate pockets. And for us, when you think about user acquisition at scale in mobile, it's all about little nuance and how do you shave pennies off of that acquisition cost. Having that sort of organic viral flywheel is so key to stretching your ad spend further. So for us, it's all about testing the hell out of the game, making sure you have those viral moments, those viral mechanics, those viral features. And the great news is, we've seen it proven out incredibly strong already. Then you take things like an ERC20 token, you take things like rare cosmetics, it tends to sort of jack those social metrics up and multiply them by many orders of magnitude. So for us, we're super excited by what we've seen so far, and really just can't wait to get some more of those Web3 mechanics in mass.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we dive more into the marketing discussion, I'd love to get a bit of a snapshot for where's InfiniGod's team today. You kind of mentioned some of the founders, but how big's the team now? How are you guys handling dev work as far as in-house versus outsourcing?
So our team is about, I would say, almost 30 full-time now. We raised seed round, we raised $8 million, combination of Pantera Capital, Animoca Brands, Framework. And then we actually closed our Series A late 23. Pantera took the whole round actually, again, for another $8 million. So, as a company and a studio, we're fortunate that we're well capitalized. We don't have to rely on mints or necessarily Web3 revenue, I think, for sustainability or just in general dev. I think we've always viewed that as a competitive advantage as we've built. But the majority of our team right now is based in the US. I'm in Turkey right now, actually, but I'm typically in Puerto Rico. Our founders, Damon and Owen, are in Austin, Texas, in Arizona, respectively. Our team is kind of scattered throughout the US. Earlier in our life cycle, sort of in that 2022, 2023 range, we actually outsourced most of our dev. We had a studio that we ran in Bulgaria out of Sofia, but we made the decision last year to bring all of that dev function in-house into North America, primarily just because we all wanted to be more on the same time zone, just because from a nimbleness standpoint and a sort of just speed and agility standpoint, having people more in sync, especially on the dev side, we just felt it was so important. So we made that move last year, and we've seen tremendous, I think, results from that so far. So the team's growing fast, and I think with some things coming, it's plotting to expand even further.
And to linger on the raising discussion for a second, we always try and aim the podcast not just at the general crypto gaming audience, but being a Neo Tokyo podcast, we of course want to bring as much value to the other founders. Were there any lessons you learned or sort of nuggets of wisdom from the raising that you could pass on to founders who are currently trying to raise?
Raising is a bitch, man. It's such a process, and I think most of our raise happened throughout 2023. During that pretty tenuous bear moment. We were raising during that entire period. I think it's obviously looking better this year, but for us, I think it was all about conviction in sort of our vision and being really steadfast about what we were building and why. I think if we look back at what we were doing previously, I think some of our story was a little bit confusing. We've always known we wanted to be a mobile gaming studio, but we had two browser-based games sort of as our prototypes to start, build the community. I think we made the call as a studio to say, you know what, we're going to go all in on mobile. It means shifting our product focus away from those browser games. And when you look at King of Destiny, it was a title that's been in development for almost 3 years now. It was kind of on the shelf as like our race in the hole, but we hadn't devoted our whole focus to it. So as a team, we decided, you know what, we think King of Destiny gives us our best shot on goal. It's proven out the strongest in sort of early metrics. Let's focus on native mobile and really lean into our team's strengths and pedigree. So I think that was a huge pivot for us was, instead of focusing on 3 games across 3 different genres, across very different platforms, we went all in on the thing that we knew best, was our bread and butter. And I think that mobile gaming narrative, was a really big step for us because you look now at games like Heroes of Mavia had a massive launch earlier this year. You see games like Fableborn, doing really well in the timeline with their play to airdrops. I think mobile is a space that still feels really nascent to me and really high opportunity in Web3. You think about FPS, you think about MMOs, you think about RPGs, you think about TCGs. They all feel super saturated to me, especially versus incumbents. I think competing with a Magic the Gathering or a Fortnite or a Valorant or a CSGO is so difficult. But I think when you look at mobile gaming, you look at the incumbents, they haven't changed in a decade. And then you put the prospect of earning something, into somebody's hands and their pockets, with very little time commitment, it becomes quite compelling, especially in tier 2 and tier 3 markets. So I think for us, we looked at our pedigree as a team. We looked at our best shot on goal in terms of game. And then we just looked at market opportunity and we thought, let's be the market leader in mobile gaming. Nobody's talking about it. You think about top of mind, who are the Web3 mobile gaming studios? In 2023, there was nobody. Nobody was even thinking about this, which always was shocking to us because it's the biggest gaming market. It's bigger than browser in console by, I think, 2x. So for us, it just made a lot of sense. I think things really clicked for us. So I think it was one, just really honing in on what's your narrative, what's your pitch, don't try to boil the ocean and do everything, because I think that's definitely a mistake that happens in Web3. And then just really lean on your network and connections. We were fortunate enough that we had a network from our seed round. We had really phenomenal investors, from Pantera in particular. So we leaned on them for advice. They were incredibly helpful throughout the process. And they ultimately helped us get over the line. So I think it was really focus on the narrative, focus on your strengths, don't spread yourself too thin. And then you just have to have conviction in sort of what that story is and sort of what you want to do. I guess it's not I don't think it's rocket science, but it is sort of conviction and honesty because, you have to make hard calls.
Oh, absolutely. Making a hard call is so much better than, so many people will just wait and make no call and you end up
Yeah.
just floundering. Would love to like peel back the layer on what made King of Destiny like the clear best shot on goal. What sort of metrics were you looking at that got you really excited versus, maybe some of the other titles that you guys were working on?
So our first 2 titles that we came out with, InfiniMerge was the first one, Match 3 similar to Candy Crush. The second game, Immortal Siege, was tower defense. Kind of a hybrid because it was a mix of RTS, tower defense, and deck building. We looked at the 3 genres, and then you look at King of Destiny, and then you look at sort of the luck battle category. I think for us, it was predominantly genre driven. We looked at, what was hot in mobile gaming, what apps were really popping to the top of the app stores. It was all luck battle. Monopoly Go just crossed, I think, 2 billion in revenue in less than 10 months. Coin Master's been a top 5 grossing game in the App Store for the past, I think, 5 years. It's a genre that's growing quicker than any other genre in mobile. It's monetizing faster than any other genre in mobile. And I think when we looked at our spread, InfiniMerge was really interesting because Candy Crush has been a staple for the last decade plus. Royal Match is a mainstay in the top 10. But when you look at a casual match 3 game, I think the potential for crypto integrations for us, while we saw some opportunities, I think it felt less robust and less interesting. And just sort of sector growth wasn't as compelling. We looked at Immortal Siege and Tower Defense, and I think while we loved that game, it had a cult following, people really liked it. It would have been a much longer build to get that onto mobile. And the genre tends to be a little bit more niche. You could go after a Clash Royale, but I mean, huge incumbent. Supercell has infinite money. They have sort of IP on lockdown. So for us, it just felt like a much tougher battle. And then we looked at Luck Battle and we said, you know what? This genre is growing like wildfire. But we fundamentally think our game, it's not a copycat. It's not a Me Too with Web3 and crypto stuff thrown in. The game loops are fundamentally different. We think the core game mechanic feels better when you look at cards. We have this game mode in tournaments that is completely different than the other titles. We think our IP, when you look at mythology and gods, has a ton of potential and a ton of familiarity. We can go into a whole discussion about IP, but I think, when you look at original IP, it takes quite a bit of time to develop and build familiarity. When you look at gods and mythology, everybody knows Hercules, everybody knows Thor, everybody knows Odin, everybody knows Zeus. It gives you a tremendous head start there. And I think, for us, it was take those characters that people know and give them a different aesthetic, give them a different sort of storyline and voice. And it gives you that kind of, I think, immediate brand recognition. So that was a really big piece of it. And then the other one was, the game had been in development on native mobile for already 2 years at that time. We didn't have to refactor InfiniMerge to become a mobile app. We didn't have to refactor Immortal Siege for native mobile. We had an app that was ready out of the box. So we launched it in 3 countries. We piloted it in, I think it was Australia, Canada, and the Philippines, just to do some light testing, run some light UA. And out of the box right away, retention was incredibly strong. We were monetizing week 1 just through IAP. This had nothing to do with crypto. It's just base game loops, people buying deals and coins to progress further. And I think Keeley, it was fun. People really liked the game. They loved that they could play it on the go with limited sort of time commitment. So we took that sort of prototype, brought it to our Web3 community, sort of our pass holders, our Discord community, put it in front of them, and it was the same response. They loved the game. There was no earning component. There was no Web3. There was no token. It was just, we really like the game and we're playing it because it's fun. We can only imagine what this could be like when you add real life degeneracy, real stakes, our assets in. So I think for us, that was very much proof of concept, proof of idea, proof of fun, proof of potential. And we quickly made the call to say, you know what, we're not going to sunset our other games. You can still play InfiniMerge, you can still play Immortal Siege because people like them, but we're going to go all in and focus our time on King of Destiny. And I think, so far it's proven out to be a really great decision we've made.
Now a word from our sponsors.
Introducing Creo Engine, a next-level Web3 gaming ecosystem that connects gamers and developers in a Web3 gaming hub. Hop on their Creo Play platform to check out current and upcoming titles like Evermore Nights, Slime Haven, Creonia Metaverse, and Arcade Fest. The team has earned the endorsement of the chairman of Indonesia's People Consultative Assembly and earned a 10 out of 10 from Hackin on their cross-chain bridge audit. Check all this out and more on CreoEngine.com. Introducing Ridotto, gambling infrastructure that offers seamless on-chain experiences. I'm excited to announce that Ridotto is the first real GambleFi project to be listed on not just one, but 2 major centralized exchanges, Bitmart and MEXC. Hop on their fully decentralized platform for lotteries, casino games, and betting. No KYC, no deposits, and instant payouts. All fueled by their RDT token, enabling you to play, build your own casino games, and bankroll as the house. Check all this out and more at ridotto.io.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Well, I absolutely love that point on, mythology almost being like an IP hack. I'm assuming this would also apply to historical characters where there's no sort of locked IP around it, especially if they're ancient, and you can really tap into all those emotions, all that excitement. I'm a huge mythology nerd, so I'm already excited about it. You can see, even Age of Mythology in the Age of Empire saga was such a
Yep.
flagship to onboarding people into like a new genre of games. So I think that's a great example, sort of backing up y'all's thinking.
And also, when I think about user acquisition, the use of public domain characters it's so valuable. I mean, companies spend millions of dollars to get IP rights. We don't have to pay any of that out of pocket. But then you think about user acquisition, creative, and storytelling. There are localized gods and myths and content for every civilization, every country on Earth. So if you want to run targeted ads at Japan or China or Latin America or Europe or Russia, whatever it is, you can tailor the gods and the mythology to those regions very, very easily. So we've run tests of Thor and Odin and the Norse gods in Scandinavia. We've taken Zeus and the Greek gods and gone to sort of the Mesopotamia region. You look at Turkey, you look at Greece, you look at Italy. You can do the same for South America and Latin America. And it just gives you tremendous flexibility that I think a lot of other brands and content don't have. So it extends to sort of your user acquisition creative. It extends to your content when you think about Instagram and TikTok and anywhere else. It extends to your content even in game. You can have, we have, when you look at campaign mode, you have to go through the Greek campaign to get to the Norse campaign. Then you go to the Egyptian campaign. Then you go to the Chinese campaign. You can imagine that content going on and on and on and on for different regions and telling different stories. So it also has sort of great, I think, legs to it as well. So we've really enjoyed that part of it.
Oh yeah, I'm already excited for the Aztec chapter. Take it down to Latin America. There's a lot of fertile ground there I mean, Egypt, that's got to have some of the most resonation across the planet. Like
Egypt is
everybody knows
badass. Yeah.
Egypt is badass, no doubt about it. As Assassin's Creed has recently taken great advantage of. Um, Shifting gears a little bit, I know you mentioned that you guys have a token dropping imminently. You mentioned the NFT collection. Could you paint a picture of the overall economy, how it interacts with the games, how the token's going to interact, the NFT and such?
Yeah, and I have to caveat, I have to be a little bit vague because most of this has not been disclosed publicly yet, but to give some, I guess, high level information. So our token is called God Coin, ticker will be GOD. InfiniGods mythology, I think it hits on a couple of levels. We're launching it in partnership with the Valhalla Foundation, so another fun nod to Norse mythology and just general crypto memetics. Everyone loves to yell to Valhalla. You need a rallying cry. But I think as we've observed token launches over the last 3 or 4 years, I think we launched in our studio in 2022. I think to wait, well over 2 years to launch a token is pretty uncommon. But we've always taken the approach of, we want to launch the token when we have a game that we feel really confident in and that we're ready to scale. And we want to make sure that token has significant utility day one when we launch it. It doesn't make sense for us to launch a token to fundraise. We've never needed to do that. It doesn't make sense for us to launch a token to build hype. We've never subscribed to that prematurely. We want to make sure when it comes out, we have exciting and interesting use cases, not just on the Web3 side, but also such that, we have abstractions in our app so that Web2 players can also use and consume this token. And I think that's how we've always viewed scale and opportunity for a token economy is, you can't have just, a couple of thousand Web3 degens trading your tokens, speculating on it, hoping they might become gamers. I think you even see that with Yuga, and other side. I think you take this crypto native community and you try to force them to become gamers. It's a really tough conversion funnel out of people that might not care about that. And that's their prerogative. So I think we've always viewed it as, we want to do a token. We know it's really important. It's core to, I think, Web3 being Web3. But the game has to be able to support it. So I think we've spent the last year with King of Destiny really getting our infrastructure in place, making sure, we do have things like smart wallets. That way, when you download the app, we actually just give you a wallet behind the scenes. You don't know it's there. We don't tell you. There's no seed phrase, no private keys. But if your mom downloads King of Destiny, she'll have a wallet. And as she progresses through the game, she's actually generating on-chain transactions when she opens chests for virtual currencies, or she achieves badges through progression or wins tournaments. She'll be generating on-chain transactions just by playing the game. And then there's actually, so our core game, King of Destiny, it's a native mobile app. It's in the App Store, iOS plus Android. We also have a progressive web app, a PWA, that kind of exists in parallel. So when you actually want to use the marketplace and trade skins, or you want to mint and trade that sort of off-chain to on-chain currency, you go into the marketplace, it sort of ports you over to a browser, it takes all of your account information, and you can trade those assets. And if you have a credit card, you can use that to buy things off the marketplace. We automatically convert it to crypto behind the scenes. You hold a USDC balance right now in your embedded wallet, and then you can use that to transact on the marketplace naturally. So we wanted to make sure we sort of proved out the infrastructure. We wanted to make sure we could actually get crypto into Web2 users' hands without them really even knowing it was happening. And it's been a smashing success so far. People have started to become, I think, red-pilled on asset ownership and trading and liquidity without them really even knowing how or why it works. And I think that's been a crucial first step for us to prove out that the tech works, people enjoy this. Now we feel really confident putting the token into that ecosystem. So the good news is, we already have, people are crafting with USDC. Just take the USDC out, put the God coin in, and all of a sudden, you have a token as the medium of exchange. People are buying avatar packs where, you buy this off-chain pack of cards, you rip it, and it mints an avatar for you on chain. It's a 10K PFP collection that you can use as a cosmetic in game. You can display it to your friends. Some are gold, some are shiny. But it's sort of the beginnings of scarcity and sort of the PFP side of things that we've all fallen in love with, at one point in time. So it's been exciting to sort of pilot it with these sort of bare bones core features. So we're excited to get the token into the game, have it sort of replace some of what the USDC is doing now, and then add some cool novel new features, not just in the game King of Destiny, but also on the Web3 side, out of the app, because, we're fully cognizant of, very different audiences. We want to make sure, there are players that can use the token, but we also want to give the degens and token holders ways to, stake for yield and have sort of gamified DeFi. And I think the things that people, have come to expect from token holdings.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, has there been, I'm sure there's discussion, I'm sure there's a plan, but has that plan been released to the public yet about how launch is going to be handled? Will there be a play to airdrop campaign? Is that sort of information public?
So none of it's public yet. There's definitely a plan that's been in development for, over a year at this point. And of course it changes, I would say almost monthly. We observe every single token launch that happens. I look at Mavia, I look at Mon Protocol, I look at Pirate Nation lately, I look at Block Lords very recently. They got listed on Coinbase. I think, you notice the meta changing almost monthly at this point in the market for gaming tokens. If you look back to Q1, you had Mavia and Portal launching at over 1 billion FDV, like it was nothing. The market's very different now, and I think in a much healthier way. We've moved away from that low float, high FDV, high volatility, type of launch. So I think we've been following things closely. I think it's very much stuck with our initial conviction, but we feel really good about the tokenomics. We feel really good about the launch plan. I think what's most exciting for us is we will be doing a play to airdrop. One of the key things for us is we want to make sure the app is ready to go and can handle that traffic. We want to make sure the play to airdrop is actually embedded natively into the game. So you'll actually, when you participate, you'll download the app, you'll progress, there will be a leaderboard, there will be quests and tasks and all this stuff. It's all in the app. So, your brother, your sister, your mom could play it, they could participate, they'll climb the leaderboard. And at the end of it, you'll end up getting a token claim. You don't have to know anything about Web3. You don't have to know anything about crypto. You can just participate and earn this thing. So we think that's a pretty critical feature. We want to make sure it's in the game, it works well. So we're looking at, I would say, sort of an early to mid-fall launch, and it's really contingent on King of Destiny being ready to rock with the features we need. So that's probably the biggest thing on the game side. Right now, we're actually running a campaign called The Road to Valhalla. So you can think of it as gamified NFT collection. So we've partnered with over 70 high-end gaming communities. Neo Tokyo is one of them that we're proud to support and include. Boom, boom, boom. But effectively, it's, we've observed all the social farming, all of the nonsense. We wanted to create something that was gamified and fun, but really just low time commitment, but got the right types of users in. So what we did was we invited 70 plus communities in. If you hold NFTs from any of those communities, you come to the website, you connect your wallet. It, of course, has delegate wallet support for security. It has multi-wallet support if you have your shit spread out. But if you hold any partner assets, if you hold an inner or outer citizen from Neo Tokyo, if you hold InfiniPasses from InfiniGods, if you hold Fableborn, Playember, Shrapnel, Parallel, whatever, connect your wallet. If you hold those NFTs, you'll end up getting, we call it Thunder. For every NFT held, there's no limit. So if you're a whale, someone like Grail or Dingaling or Seed Phrase, they're all on there. You'll actually get much more Thunder and actually a much bigger piece of that God coin airdrop pie. So it's really meant to be gamified in terms of your NFT collection. It's meant to bring in Web3 gamers and collectors, which we think is really important in terms of just audience curation. I think so often you see play to airdrop campaigns and social farming campaigns just get raided by cyber attacks and bots and low quality users. We really want to get high-end users in that we think will really love what we're building. It helps us with exposure and cross-pollination, but really, hopefully create a nice payoff, for those users before our launch. So I think it's one of the ones that it feels like it's underhyped because it takes such a small amount of time. It literally takes you 20 seconds to participate. But I think the payoff is going to be quite exciting, especially for people that have larger Web3 gaming bags. So if you rode the ups and the downs and you're holding lots of bags, maybe it's a way to recoup some value and start a new saga there. So it's free to participate in. It takes about 20 seconds. It's the Valhalla Foundation. We can send the link out, but super encourage anybody to participate there.
Yeah, you'll definitely have to share the link so that we can drop it down in the description. So if you happen to be a gaming whale, NT citizen, anything like that, hop on down to the description and hit that link and get all linked up. As you said, it only takes 20 seconds. As someone who's got a bunch of pictures of different games sitting in his wallets, I'm excited to hear that. I'd love to zoom out a little bit and tap into your marketing knowledge. What's the good, the bad, and the ugly that you've been witnessing in the crypto gaming cycle? Let's say, this recent cycle, 2024, end of 2023. What are sort of the new metas in marketing, and what do you think is good, and what do you think is, the ugly?
I mean, I think the ugly and the meta, I kind of combine these things, for me has always been the overhyped KOL marketing. And I think, there are a lot of really amazing, I hate the word KOL, but we're just going to go with it because it's what people call them. I think there are a lot of amazing creators and KOLs who are trustworthy, who offer immense, advice and have immense experience. But I think so much of the space, so much of crypto Twitter is dominated by, a small handful of voices. And I think what we've seen historically, especially in gaming, is there haven't been real games. There haven't been fully fledged products. People are launching and they're pre-selling purely based on speculation and hype and the imagination of what could be. And I think for something like a PFP collection, it kind of works because you have community that forms right away. There's a trading market. It makes more sense to me. But I think for games where your development cycle is so long, oftentimes it will take you years to build a fully fledged product. I think you're seeing games and products do token sales and do NFT sales years ahead of when they probably should because they need to fundraise or they want attention or whatever the reason is. I think it's extremely dangerous. And I think you're seeing the market catch up to it now where things aren't minting out. pre-sales, KOL rounds, were so in vogue and so hot last year. People were buying every single sale. I think what you're seeing is, most gaming token launches look exactly the same. It starts here and it goes down to the right. And it's a lot of the vaporware, low quality stuff that all looks the same. Conversely, you look at launches like Pirate Nation, you look at Heroes of Mavia, games that never really hyped. They built in silence in some cases, or at least with a core community for a couple of years in most cases. And they launched their tokens when they had a game that was ready to go to put the token in. I think we've very much subscribed to that model where, build your community, build your diehards, get your people with conviction in, let them build size, and then unleash the token in the marketing, when it's, when you have the product to actually use that thing in and it feels more material. So I think the good news is the market is getting a hell of a lot smarter. People are not investing in pre-sale rounds anymore at these massive valuations, or at the very least, they're being very discerning about the ones they do participate in. And I think it's really healthy. It's this flight to quality. It's people really thinking through what games are playable right now. Can I actually get my hands on, are fun, have a player base, and aren't just these, hyped trailers that don't even have gameplay footage. So I think that's been really, exciting for me to witness because I think it just signals maturation. And the good news is we have real games, we have fun games across a ton of different genres, and I think that's really exciting as an industry in a space. So I think that's some of the bad that I've observed. And I think, swinging back around to where we are now, KOL marketing, I think, can have a really ugly side, I think can be misleading. But I think you also have really smart and brilliant KOLs that know what they're talking about. I think about the Jonah Blakes of the world. I think about Seed Phrase. I think about Grail. I think about Sparksy. I think about Alex Becker and Elio. You have people that know crypto, have been in the space for sometimes a decade, but also understand gaming investments. They understand what it means to build the game. They understand gaming studios. We didn't have that level of knowledge and pedigree, even last year, let's call it. So I think from us, it's been really fun to observe the market, observe creators over the last year or two, and then pick a few that, for the most part, have been in our community since 2022, but get them more intensely involved in the token rollout process, sort of in the game development process, and have that sort of aligned, incentives. So we work with Grail, we work with Barat Crimo, Seed Phrase, Sparksy, Hunter Solaire, Elisa, a few Raiden, people that I think we really respect. Sam Stefanina from Gamified, of course. How could I forget the most bold voice in crypto? But people that we've built relationships with, with no financial incentives, and kind of had those relationships mature naturally. So I think on the marketing side, the community side, it's really fun to take people that believed in us early, supported us all along, and bring them in more intimately at this more sort of mature stage. So I think that's been the thing that I've observed and really had a lot of joy in being a part of.
Absolutely. And then I guess this falls under the KOL umbrella, but I consider them a little bit separate, which are the streamers. So
Yeah.
how do you view the importance of streamers and sort of that marketing push? Is that as big in mobile? It was definitely console and PC dominated. It seems like mobile is starting to get a good niche in the streaming space. So how do you view that as far as getting those people to sort of evangelize for a particular game?
Yeah, look, I think you need like the high and the low, the clouds and the dirt, to quote Gary Vee. You need, I think, the big megaphone voices that get the attention, of the right types of people, that sort of macro influencer. But then you need the micro influencer. You need the people on the ground that create content. They talk about gameplay. They talk about tokenomics. They talk about how fun the game is. I think you need both sides of the equation. And I think for FPS games, for MMOs, for TCGs, those people are your lifeblood. They are what showcase how your game works, how it feels, how fun it is. I look at games like Pal World. I look at Chain Together. I look at Up Only. I mean, those games blew up because of streamers, because they were viral, because they were so fun to watch. So I think certain genres will always live and die based on that type of creator. I think with mobile gaming, it's a little bit different. I think people don't tend to watch mobile gaming streams, especially not in hyper casual. That segment, it doesn't exist as much. I think where it does become really important is TikTok. I think about short form. I think about TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels. How do you bake little snippets of gameplay, alongside IP? I think about Pudgy Penguins and Sappy Seals, what they've done on IG Reels just to blow up their IP. I think in mobile gaming, you look at Monopoly Go, most of their advertising, their content is not about the gameplay itself. The gameplay is super simple. You roll dice, you send people to jail, Coin Master, you roll a slot machine, but it's about the feeling of the reaction I gave somebody when I stole their shit, I attacked their village. So I think things like that, where, it feels like you create those viral moments of, person-to-person interactions, I think are really key. But I think the other layer now becomes, especially with mobile, there's this whole angle of I can play this game for 5 minutes a day in the bathroom, in the gym, on the subway, in a tier 3 country. And I can earn something just by having fun and playing that thing. I think that messaging, it's a little bit nuanced, but I do think it's something that will resonate with the right types of groups in a way that mobile gaming has never been able to really do before. You've had some real money gaming that's tried to do it, but it's always been gate kept in terms of messaging by Facebook and Apple. They don't want you talking about any of those things. So I think crypto opens up some new opportunities to experiment with different types of copy, different types of creative to trigger more of those impulses.
Oh, definitely. It's its own unique sandbox. So that's part of the fun of it, right? Being able to try out new economic structures, new marketing structures, and really find what appeals to our audience and the tools that we have in Web3. Last question, taking off the marketing hat. You mentioned in 2021 you were rocking the DGen hat. So gotta have the last question on being a little bit of a DGen. I'm assuming you're still investing, buying coins in the space. So would love to, if you're comfortable sharing, what's your thesis for this cycle? How are you looking at it? How far out are you looking at it? You don't have to talk price or anything like that. That's all
Yeah,
crystal
yeah.
ball, but would love to get a little bit of how you're thinking on the investing side.
I mean, I'm super bullish. How could you not be after Bitcoin Nashville? Trump's talking about the U.S. buying the strategic Bitcoin reserve. But I think we're very much in the early innings of a bull market. I think end of 2024, 25 are going to be a really exciting time in crypto. I think for me, I spent a little bit less time trading frenetically now than I did just because of time and attention. But I do have a strong bull thesis on gaming. It's no surprise I chose to put my reputation and my time into gaming because I feel so damn strongly about it and sort of how it'll change the industry. So naturally, most of my investment goes to that sector. Of course, I hold Bitcoin, I hold ETH, I hold Solana, sort of the majors. But I'm looking at games that have real product that I think have a real chance to scale. And I think previous cycles, we were nowhere near there. But I think now I look at games like I love Pirate Nation. I think that team is so high class, so top end. We talk often with Ahmed and Adam Fern. I think what they're doing with on-chain gaming, it feels niche right now, but I do think it kind of feels like the early innings of mobile gaming and social gaming where people didn't really get it yet, but then all of a sudden it clicked and it made sense. And it's no surprise because their team was there at the genesis of mobile social gaming. So I think what they're doing, for me, we look at the AI narrative previously, which is still very relevant, but I do think fully on-chain gaming, will be a very strong narrative. And I look at them very much at the forefront of that. So for me, I'm following them. I'm invested there. I'm a huge fan. I think AI, again, huge narrative. I look at Parallel, I look at Prime, I look at Wayfinder. I mean, I think that team is top class. I think they've built the game that's broken into the mainstream. It's very controversial if you talk to Magic the Gathering fans or Hearthstone fans, but I think if you're getting hate from gamers, it means you're doing something right. So I look at that game. I look at Colony. I mean, the fact that they're building across different genres, different experiences. They're a mature team. They've been around. I think, really, really exciting. So again, it's a little bit more mature. You're probably not getting the upside on Prime that you're getting on a meme coin or a micro cap, but I tend to play it a little bit safer maybe than others with a longer term horizon. I feel comfy in holding Pirate or holding Prime, with a 3, 4, 5 year outlook. And then I think, shamelessly for me to plug, I think mobile is a sector in crypto that I'm immensely bullish on that people don't talk about enough. So for me, it's obviously, fully invested on the InfiniGods side in what we're building and what's coming. But, I look at Heroes of Mavia. I think Super Champs is another really interesting one that's flying under the radar. Fableborn is one that I absolutely love that team. I think the way that they're bending genres and they're thinking about tokenomics and gameplay is really interesting. They are working on a live ops platform actually with their token. So one that I think, is super underpriced in my opinion. Again, they're pre-token, they haven't released their tokenomics, but is one that if you're bullish on mobile and the thesis there, I think what they're doing is really smart and really interesting. I like the team at Play Ember, John Hook, if they're looking at sort of more of the mass market hyper casual space, but I think they get degens, they get Web3 in a way that some other teams don't. So just a couple of ones that rattle off the top of my head, but I mean, no shortage of names. I mean, I just immense respect for anybody who chooses to build games in this space and takes a stab at tokenomics and Web3 integrations in earnest. It's freaking hard. It's hard to build in public. You get immense criticism. I think people don't always understand what goes into it. But I think it's immensely fulfilling when you can crack something new and different. And, ultimately, we're at the precipice of this new space, new frontier of gaming. If I look to the future in, 5-10 years in gaming, I fully expect the Mount Rushmore to be the Paul Bettners of Wildcard and Shrapnel and Parallel and Fableborn and, all these teams and InfiniGods, of course, all these teams that we're talking to now on Twitter Spaces and in Discord that, are so approachable. But, I think there are going to be a handful that really do bust open the world of gaming and change, how we think about things. And it's impossible not to find that to be incredibly exciting and sort of cathartic in some ways. So again, it's on all of us to, stay the course, keep building, working with, people like yourselves to help spread the word and share what we're doing, because frankly, without, communities like Neo Tokyo, we don't have an audience. And I think it's so important to create those relationships. So appreciate you guys, the creators, the streamers, the media, you're just as important to the success of what we're building, as the teams behind the games.
We'll greatly appreciate that and completely echo the sentiment on there's so much to be excited about, both the gaming side of my brain. I love economics. So I actually think we're living in the golden age of economic development, because if you thought about it, the only times that economics were really built from scratch was when new countries were formed.
Yep.
And now people spinning up these game environments are really getting to get a crash course in economics and seeing what works and making all these new sort of sinks and faucets and all that nerd stuff I love. So a lot to be excited about. Before we wrap, is there anything that we missed on the InfiniGods side or any closing thoughts before we wrap it up?
I think this was incredibly thorough. I think we covered King of Destiny. Download the game, try it out. There's so much coming in the next 3 to 6 months in terms of really sick new features, token integration, tokenomics, all the stuff you just talked about. So just excited to do new things that, we think have never been done before in native mobile gaming. So that's big. And then, of course, the GodCoin launch with the Valhalla Foundation, that'll be a really excited one. We've put in a ton of work, a ton of time, a ton of prep. Mostly just can't wait to get it live into the world and start have it living and breathing. But look out for that in the next couple of months is sort of what we're thinking in terms of launch. But beyond that, I think those are the big hot items.
Love it. And if you got a fat gaming bag, we're going to drop that link down in the description so that you can get all teed up for the Thunder. And you too can be on the road to Valhalla. But Bryan, really appreciate you taking the time to join us during your evening. Really appreciate it, especially on a Sunday.
Dude, Nick, great to talk to you. Great to be here. Thank you so much for hosting. It's been a blast, and I'm happy to come back anytime.
Love it. We'd love to have you back. You're very welcome. This has been another episode of Neo Tokyo Interlinked, and we will be back next week. Take care, everybody.
Later, guys.
Crypto Unicorns is available to play now on their website, and their Play to Airdrop campaign just kicked off on July 1st. Players can now earn daily Xi rewards just by playing the game. Try it out for yourself and breed, battle, and collect your favorite unicorns, all while earning your slice of the Xi pie. This is not an opportunity to miss, so hop onto their website, www.cryptounicorns.fun, and try it out for yourself.